voters wisely made a change at the federal government, and spending levels from the federal government and the strings attached are going to have to stop. We finally have a presidential administration that's committed to returning power to the states in all the ways that matter, and taking it away in the ways where states really shouldn't have a say, like in sanctuary cities and immigration enforcement and border security. I mean, these are places where we need a strong federal government. Where we don't need a strong federal government are the 5 cores that I'll be pushing along with my Freedom Caucus colleagues, and that's to make Missouri safe, secure, healthy, free, and affordable again. And what is at the core of all of these, I think, is really truly that government overreach. What has happened with all these dollars coming in is been strings attached. We don't have a Missouri that's run by your elected officials. We've developed a Missouri that's run by federal government, state agency employees, not even elected officials from the federal government, but from state agencies and federal agencies. And what we have to do when we spend more dollars, when the money doubles, the services don't double. You don't get any more from your government. Does anyone here believe they're getting more from their state government, their federal government, any government? Are your services better now than they were when the budget was half of what it was 12 years ago? I don't think so. I think it's been less efficient. The services might be the same, but there's more people doing them and they're not moving as fast. And I don't think anyone would disagree with that. What we have to is this opportunity to now start. We're forced to cut budget. We're forced to cut money, finding ways to get this federal money out. And we have to take advantage of that and start scaling back the regulatory estate. But there's one thing that I learned early on, and I think, when I was sitting in a tax policy class as a public policy grad student at Syracuse University, I remember one day I came in, I had this liberal tax professor teacher who ran some tax institute in DC. And he's complaining. I mean, this was at the point where the Tea Party at that point was just coming into power and winning elections back in 2010 and 2012. And he comes into class grumbling one day about how all these Tea Partiers, they don't understand how government works. They don't understand. They don't get how dangerous what they're doing is. One day he came in and he changed his tune entirely. He's like, you know what? I think I'm wrong. I think they know exactly what they're doing. And it's dangerous and it's awful. These crazy people think that they can starve the beast. They've decided they've given up on trying to reform government. They've given up on trying to cut government. They've decided the only way we're actually going to reduce the size of government is to starve the beast, he called it. They're gonna cut spending, they're gonna cut revenue, they're gonna cut agencies, they're going to go in and they're gonna gut it because they think that's gonna somehow lead to less government. And I'll tell you what, my political philosophy was born that day. This guy's complaining about these crazy people who just want to downsize the scope of government, and they think they're only going to do that by starving the beast. And to me, that was like, well, that sounds pretty good. That's what I think we need to do. It's been said to me that we have a lot more important things to worry about than tax policy and regulatory reform policy. And there are some things in some ways that we really face, life and death decisions. When we talk about make America healthy again, choices and really knowing what's coming in. But when we're talking about the larger scope of government, at the heart of it, if you really want to solve it, what we need to do is we need to reduce the scope of government, and that means you have to starve the beast. They will not make government cuts on their own. They will not cut spending on it. And the last 10 years have been proof of that. We've sent Republican after Republican. Now every statewide office is a Republican office holder. We've sent Republican supermajority after Republican supermajority. And since Republicans took the House, the chamber that leads the budget, how many years of those last 23 years has a Republican supermajority, majority before that, delivered an actual budget cut from one year to the next? One time. From 2023 to 2024 was the only time we've actually delivered a budget cut with all those Republican governments. Government won't do it. Politicians won't do it unless you make them do it. And that's why I'm getting to the priorities on it. I don't know what the governor intends to do beyond, he's talked about income tax cuts, which are good that we have a governor talking about tax cuts. We didn't have that under Parson. We need to do more. We need to do regulatory reform. I'll be filing the REINS Act again this year, which will put all state agencies back under our elected officials in the General Assembly who can suspend rules that have no basis in any statute that we've written or put forward. Last year we did it for the courts, for giving them judicial deference. I'd like to see them start using that to start stripping back a lot of the growth of the state agencies that's happened over the 10, 12 years. But we need the legislature to be involved on that too. I think we've all learned important lessons that we can't trust our Missouri court system to not be judicial activists when given the opportunity to do so. If they have the choice between standing with the taxpayer and standing with a government agency, they've been choosing the government agency 9 out of 10 times. It's going to be up to your elected officials. It's going to be up to you to demand that government makes these cuts over these next few years. They're in a position where their back's at the wall. The federal money is leaving. It's gone. They don't have the dollars to spend. And I'm sure what we'll start seeing is all these legal arguments why the balanced budget amendment doesn't actually matter in our Constitution and how we need to get around that. Don't let them do it. We need legislators who are going to stand up for balanced budgets when it's the hardest to do right now in these next few years. There is so much fat. The year we did cut, we saw no loss in services because and everyone's starting to find out what we all know in this room, that there is a lot of fat in our government, that there are a lot of places where we can reduce the size and scope. As we start keeping money in taxpayers' pockets, in the pockets of Missouri families and Missouri businesses, we also need to start reducing these programs and these positions. For everything from DEI officers to inappropriate medical standards, we need to start getting government back to the basics of what it's supposed to do. And that's why we need true regulatory reform on top of the tax reform. And I think that's where we should really be putting our priorities coming into the next session. Those are the only ways we're actually going to start reducing the massive scope and size of government overgrowth that we've gotten these last 10 years, and especially since COVID. I know I have willing partners in this room in those initiatives, and I'm hoping that when we get to Jeff City, we'll find finally a different kind of Republican leadership and Republican Party who is actually confronted with some real challenges. And as they're looking for people who have answers on how we can govern in an era with less federal dollars and less money coming in, where people want more freedom, not less freedom, they'll look to the people in this room and look to conservatives who have had the answers all along. That what people have really wanted is limited government. What grows the economy is freedom, and what makes people want to live in Missouri's, families to stay in Missouri's, businesses to keep their businesses here in Missouri and to attract more, is true economic and individual liberty across the board, and that means less government. Thank you, I appreciate it, everybody.